Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show, episode 24. I've been wanting to get this guy on for a long time. He's one of my favorite people to work with. He is a multiple Emmy Award winner, an Eclipse Award winner. He will be producing many of the summer racing series you're seeing on NBC, as well as the Breeders' Cup. He just come off the Triple Crown Trail, among other duties that he has. He joins us now. He is my friend Billy Matthews. Billy, welcome into the show.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks for having me. Been forward to this.
You know, I know you have. See, a lot of people tell me, and I know they don't, but you, I really believe, have been looking forward to this.
Well, I'm a loyal listener, and, we talk on and off the podcast, so looking forward to it.
Well, you know, the thing I always like is the many things that you've covered in your career, from the NHL, the NFL, the NBA, back in the day when NBC had the NBA and the NFL on a regular basis. You do gymnastics, one of the high-profile sports in the Summer Olympics. And I'm always curious about, with all the preparation for the other sports, and you come right off the NHL and right into the Triple Crown Series again this year, is there a big difference? Is there some similarities, at least in the preparation for a Triple Crown Series as compared to getting ready for the Stanley Cup?
Well, as you know, the amount of preparation is, huge in the Triple Crown. And I work on the NBCSN shows, and Rob Hyland does the NBC portion of the race. And we are surrounded by such great people, all the announcers and the production people behind the scenes. The preparation is great, but the people, everybody loves the horse racing. Everybody loves being a part of it, and it's infectious. Where, like the other sports and the hockey and through the years, the preparation and stuff, it's there, but it just seems that in horse racing, the people live and breathe it, and it's a part of their everyday life. So it's almost like you just pick up right where you left off, and the preparation is in some ways easier because there's so many talented people. You can, as you well know, you can turn and ask any of our research team, our producers, everybody lives and breathes it, where I think people on other sports, they get assigned to it. It seems that everybody that's on horse racing wants to be a part of it and is looking forward, and they don't ramp up. They're living it 12 months of the year. So when they come on horse racing, it's not like they even they're still in stride from the last race we did. It's a 12 months of the year passion for everybody on our crew.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. Everybody's all fired up about it. Of course, we haven't come off like we're not in like our 90th NHL game of the year either. So maybe if we were in our 90th horse race of the year, we might be different. We might be surly, and you might say, gosh, I hate to work with those people.
And when I do hockey with Edzo, he'll hit me between periods or whenever I get a chance to work with Edzo, and it's like, in the off season, it's like, hey, what prep races you doing? What are you thinking of Roadster? Because I got futures on Roadster already. So it's in our DNA throughout the year.
Yeah, Eddie Olczyk, who's been on the show and talked about those hockey guys and horse guys, and Billy allowed me to do. I'm claiming to have dropped the first puck on the new New York Islanders arena that will be built adjacent to, actually right in the parking lot of if you've been out there by the Long Island Railroad where they drop people off at that end of the grandstand, I was out there, and that was one of the hits I did. I dropped a puck. I like that.
It'll be a big double some year if the Stanley Cup playoffs are night and the Belmont's in the day. It'll be the happening spot, hopefully for the Islanders and for Belmont.
Yeah, and that's that. I like the crossover. I like when other guys get involved, even like last year at the Breeders' Cup. As you were producing, remember Walker Buehler was there, the Dodgers, who just made the All-Star team, and I like the fact that he didn't pick Bob Baffert's horse. Even there, he was there as Bob's guest because he got the wrong horse. Yeah,
and do you remember the year before, the owner of the Astros was coming down as a guest at it was in Del Mar, so right after they had just won them. So yeah, a lot of crossover.
And I think that's probably the thing about the sports, isn't it? The storytelling. Especially the way NBC does it, you mentioned Rob and the other producers, it is about the stories more than sitting there and just spitting statistics at you. How many, it's part of it, of course, but how they done on power plays this season and things obviously has its place, but I think the storylines are always what drives viewers consistently, in my opinion. You know, I kind of know the rules of the sports. I like to hear some stories.
Yeah, it's the old make me care. Why do I care about this horse versus this horse, or this owner versus this owner? It's just, you got to get, under the take the layers off and make the audience care, because it's, because a lot of the majority of especially at Derby, a lot of these people don't have bets on that. They're just watching for the hats and the parties and to pick a horse that they like, whether it's a name. Half the people like it because of the name or the stories. I like this horse, or I like every horse but Bob Baffert because he wins all the time. It's
Right.
Whatever you like, but the stories are definitely what pulls the people there. And, that's why I think, California Chrome was so relatable, because of the ownership and the Art Sherman. He was a relatable figure. He wasn't the Todd Pletchers or the Bob Bafferts of the world. I think a lot of people, can gravitate to the stories.
Billy, I've always thought that along those lines, and I've talked to some horse people about it, the executives in the sport, that I understand. A Justify comes along. Of course, American Pharoah comes along. California Chrome, you mentioned. I'll have another. Some of these horses that have popped up that, came close if they didn't win the Triple Crown, and they get a lot of attention. But as I also point out, they're gone after a year. If they have a great year, they're going to be gone. So, I mean, imagine if your Stanley Cup, you only get one shot at the Stanley Cup every 8 years or something. People aren't going to watch hockey, in my opinion. You only have the Super Bowl every 8 or 10 years. And that's really about the statistics of what comes down to how many Triple Crown winners you're going to have. Long story short here, sorry, you would be wrapping me up if I were on the air right now with you. You say, come on, spit it out, get to the point.
No. If you have a good story, you can go as long as you want. Right,
I know.
Kenny?
You allow me that. That's why I love working with you. But, the whole point of this is just like you mentioned, I think you should be able to root for or against Bob Baffert or John Velasquez or Javier Castellano, the Ortiz brothers. You like them, you don't like them, only because that's why we like all sports. We like this player, we like this coach or manager, we don't like them. And I think the human element, which NBC does a great job of bringing out, is what horse racing should be promoting all the time. And that's what we try to do on this show, is the human element, because, there's a good chance, God willing, that, Pletcher and Baffert and these guys are going to be Billy Mott. They're going to be on the scene for several more years.
It's like we always talk about, like, every time Lucas has a horse, I have a soft spot for the coach. And then when he has a horse in, and then some people say, well, that horse doesn't have a chance, or it's a long shot. So what? I still want to talk about it because that's he's a relatable figure. If you could say, how many guys have the story that he has, so it's always it's good to gravitate towards we'll call it the low hanging fruit, as we say in our production meetings.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to when you were a kid and I was a kid. And probably everybody listening that's sports fans, and thankfully from the feedback we get, we have a lot of sports fans, not just horse racing fans that listen or watch this. When you grew up, what'd you always hear? 3-2 pitch, 2 men out, guy on first, he's running with the pitch. 3rd and 8, it's a passing down, usually. I mean, there's some just things that you learn and you still hear to this day that just kind of reinforces it. And I don't think anybody watching a baseball game or a football game says, wow, I'm offended by that. I mean, that's how people are kind of gradually brought into the game, in my opinion. That's what we try to do, gradually bring them into horse racing, because not even me growing up in Kentucky, I didn't grow up in this world. I gravitated toward it with my job, but I think that's really important, is to have people out there that, so what if you're a little repetitious sometimes? That's like all sports. It kind of keeps it ingrained in you.
Well, I think I bring to horse racing a lack of knowledge, for lack of a better term. I don't want to know everything. I don't want to know. So when, Larry Colmisser is calling, the horse went out in 24 and change, I'm like, is that fast or slow?
Yeah.
Because the average audience won't know that. And we need to put, as you say, qualifiers on a lot of things with the stats, the buyer speed. I'm like, well, what is that? Good, fast? Is the horse, is that, blazing? You got to put, context to all the stats. And because a lot of the people, if the industry is going to grow and bring more people onto the tent, you got to explain to people what, what's good, what's not good, because you can't assume that everybody knows how to read the racing form. and those who do are still going to read it anyway.
Right. I mean, I think
those fans are still going to be there.
Well, it's, you know what, it's like when I watch gymnastics, and I watch gymnastics every 4 years. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
the Olympics, how's the U.S. doing? And that's when I watch it.
Yeah.
And knowing that you produce it, of course, makes me even more interested. But it's kind of like, because you got those stories, and then they'll explain something to me. You've got great analysts, and they'll explain something. I go, okay, I get that now. That's why they did that or didn't do that.
Yeah, and like I'll just say to, our analyst on gymnastics, Tim Daggett, who's won the '84 Olympics and he's been doing it since '92. I'll say to him in the beginning of each 4-year span, I'll say, how good is the United States? He goes, oh, they should win the gold medal. And I'm like, well, put that in perspective. How good are they? And then I'll squeeze out of him the statement that we could send our B team and win the silver medal. And I'm like, okay. So that puts the lofty expectations on the women's gymnastics team to say that anything short of a gold medal would be, in their eyes, a disappointment. But you just need perspective because nobody knows. And you have to say that it's similar in horse racing. How good is this horse? Well, it's even money, or then you could just say, well, is that just the odds, or this horse is that much ahead? When the action comes in, how much is this horse going to, separate itself? Because you need to put perspective on how good the horses are, and I think our analysts do it. But like you say, going back to gymnastics, you just need to, tell the audience who's good, who to root for, who the stories are, and who's, how good the teams are. Explain it.
You have some of the best stories because over the years you've worked with pretty much every great announcer that's passed through NBC since, I think you started in 1987. Is that right? About 87?
Yes, sir.
I mean,
as an intern.
Yeah. So that's a lot of Olympics. You've worked with many people, including our friend Tom Hammond, who was just on the show. And, Dick Enberg, one of the legends, and Al Michaels and Bob Costas and Mike Tirico now. I'm missing people. Paul McGuire. We both worked with Paul McGuire, one of the legendary analysts and one of the most unique guys I've ever met.
I think we quote Paul McGuire more than a lot of people. All the other colleagues we work with, it's just him as a great person and a friend. And I guess Kenny could say one of the most genuine people in our business too. Like he what you see is what you get. And I know that's an overused phrase, but he's a great person.
He is. I always like it. He calls me during the Triple Crown, goes, Rice, who's going to win? I go, I don't know, Paul. I got an idea, but I don't know. I said, I'm still working. He goes, yeah, good point. And then he'll hang up. And that's our conversation. But it's been a good one. We got to the point. Yes. We know both of us are still alive, and we moved on.
Yeah, and it is good in our business, and a lot of people don't have that. I think in the television business, it's interesting because I won't see Paul McGuire for a year and a half, or 2 years, and if I bump into him, it's like it was 2 days ago. I may not see you after the Breeders' Cup all the way until the Derby, but when I see you, it'll be a good embrace, and we pick it up. And we're really fortunate in crossing paths with people. It does seem that, you become family to where you see, you're in the trenches, then you don't see people for a while, and you just pick right back up. And that's why we are fortunate in this business.
Well, I'm working on gymnastics, by the way. I mean, I'm studying up on it in case you need a sideline.
Yes.
I did like that Olympic team. They were fun. The U.S. Olympic team was fun to watch, and fun to watch them being interviewed, and they just seemed happy. Not everybody that wins a horse race is happy.
No, but the good thing is that's one of the reasons, changing the subject for a second, when you said happy, it does. That's why I love working on the Breeders' Cup, because the Derby, you have one winner, and Breeders' Cup, you're going to get reactions for 2 days of everybody's, there's a lot of good, every day's, that's why when you said it made me think about, the excitement and the happiness in that sport too.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of a correlation, and this is a stretch, I know, with Olympics and the Triple Crown, in that you got 4 years, and some people work 4 years and they have that success, or they don't. Their whole life of working, this career of working, can come down to minutes or seconds. And with horses, all those Triple Crown horses this year, that's it. They had one shot at it. And it's not so much for the trainers. Bob Baffert's going to be back next year. Todd Pletcher's going to be back. But some of the owners, you're not sure when this owner's going to have another horse that could even make it to a Derby, much less win it or have a shot at winning it. And I liken it a little bit to the Olympics in that way. There can be a lot of anticipation. You can wait a long time, and something may or may not happen that will be a memory forever.
And it is timing, too. You have to peak at the right time. You know, like you said, it's 3-year-olds for the Triple Crown, and you have to be the right age in any sport in that 4-year cycle. Like if you come around and say the best, we'll keep it on gymnastics because that's what I produce in the Summer Olympics, snowboarding in the winter. You know, you have to be that young and that, like say the peak age is say 17. Well, if you're 17 in a non-Olympic year, you may be considered old in one Olympics or young in another. So it does have to do with timing too.
You know, a lot of people said at 17 I peaked. It was over. I keep hanging on though.
Well, hanging on, and that's what we always have a little joke too about you hanging on. Is what is it? You want to know who won the Kentucky Derby? Look for Kenny, right?
Yeah, I've had a pretty good streak here, haven't I? Including this year when we thought he might win it. I didn't know what kept going on with Bill Mott.
Yeah, I would explain to your audience. It's like it seems that every Derby winner Kenny's standing next to, and this year Kenny was standing next to Mott, ready for the second place, or not getting it, and all of a sudden, guess what? You're interviewing the Derby winner. So, and by the way, who interviewed Mark Cassey at the Preakness? Who was that?
Let's see. And it just goes. I don't know. I think I think the lesson here for all you trainers out there, and several have been on the show. Mott's been on the show. Mandela, Baffert, Lucas. If you want to win, hang around me at the Derby next year. That's hang around.
Yeah, you just. It's like, what is it, Clemson when they go down and touch the rock before they go down the game, just before they leave the paddock, touch Kenny, and then maybe you get a little,
Yeah, come and touch me.
It's like a good luck charm.
And you know what, I'm talking with Billy Matthews, a multiple Emmy Award winner, Eclipse Award winning producer for NBC Sports. He's doing the summer racing series, many of those races for NBC. And of course, we'll be producing the Breeders' Cup, which is at Santa Anita, staying at Santa Anita. And before I ask you about Santa Anita, Billy, kind of continue with that, after the race, and this is what you're always so great about, you get that there's no sports information director, no public relations person bringing trainers to any of us to do interviews. It's like they're all over the board, and many of them, and I remember interviewing Art Sherman, and he's not the first to say, how do I get over to the winner's circle? Because, hey, it's not like he's there every year, And and so it is it is a fun thing to do. It's a real challenging thing, I think, for all of us, for the camera guys and everybody. Find the trainer, and then let's get to him and talk to him.
And it is controlled. It is chaotic to the viewers and the listeners here. It's the second the horse crosses the line, all of a sudden it's like, okay, who's got him? And then all of a sudden you look up and you forget that they're moving targets. They're moving from their box down to the winner's circle. You're walking, everybody's trying to get in position, and then there could be interference so the camera's not ready, and then you're trying to get there. And then when they go to you, cool and calm. I'm here with Art Sherman, and not with missing a beat, but if they could see the 20, 30 seconds prior to you getting on camera, it is chaotic. And then you just deliver it. And then the thing, too, you have to remember, you have to put in perspective what just happened 30 seconds after the races and put it in context. So you do an outstanding job, my friend.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And, and I hope you keep saying that. I hope after the Breeders' Cup this year, after the Breeders' Cup, you don't say, hey, don't ever talk to me again and have me back on that show.
No, you know how it is. It's a two-way street with us. I like this year, too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember at the Derby when Mike Smith lost him out on Omaha Beach, you said, hey, I want to hear from Corey Lantern. And I said, okay, let's talk to him. And then, boom, we did it. It was like that. It was very, you have that good sense of curiosity of, everyman approach to, let's just not hear what happened. Let's see if he's upset with losing that mount. And it turned out to be a good little bit of television.
Thank you. Well, your approach, my approach, I think the whole NBC approach is kind of that way. It'd be like this. If a star player got hurt and somebody else took his place in the lineup, you might ask the star player, hey, how does it feel? I mean, hey, this was your big moment. This was your stage. It was the World Series. It was the Stanley Cup. It was the NBA Finals, the Super Bowl. That's a given. I think sometimes, and not all, I mean, not our announcing crew, and I realize I'm biased about this, but, we are looking for those stories as opposed to saying, well, before we talk to the jockey, I'd like to tell you that horse worked a 58-2 last week, getting ready for the, well, okay, so what? I mean, what does that mean to anybody? If it, you already know that, believe me, if you're a horse racing fan, you've already studied the form and you know what he's done. And the rest of the world wants to know, how does Corey Lanerie feel being knocked off this horse?
Yeah. Is he upset? Is that the way the, cliche alert, the cookie crumbles for him? But you just want to hear from him. And it's that curiosity of the everyman, what I talked about earlier, where, I might not know what protocol is. Jerry Bailey's like, well, it happens all the time, or sometimes it happens, or would you do that? It's like at the Preakness when Jerry was at the graduation, when I talked to him after the Preakness.
Yeah.
My first question was, did you ever see a horse run crazy? How many races were you involved in? And he's like, oh yeah, a few. And I'm like, at the Triple Crown, it's what the curious fan wants to know. What's that feeling like when you look over and then there's a horse running next to you without a jockey on it?
Yeah.
I've never experienced it, but it's that curiosity.
And look at how many people got on social media, and some people sent us questions. I was getting texts from friends in other sports, some basketball people and combative sports people, boxing and MMA. They were legitimately asking, what if the horse had finished first? Would he have won the Preakness without a jockey? They didn't know.
But I was just curious about because Jerry's been in thousands and thousands of races. I don't know how often he's done it, or is it it's a common occurrence, as far as, and again, there's a lot more people, a lot more listeners on this podcast, all this, that probably know a lot more about horse racing than I do, but I like to think I bring the curious overview, which helps the broadcast as far as not knowing everything, or, just playing, the curious producer in the truck.
Well, curious producer in the truck, and I'm curious roving reporter right now myself, even though we've got a few months to figure all this out. As we know, the Breeders' Cup is staying at Santa Anita, and there was questions of whether or not, that's why the Breeders' Cup had a meeting the last few days, was to make this announcement. I said earlier, I think you got to kind of stick with it. It'd be almost like saying, Fenway Park, we don't know. Maybe it's not safe anymore. This is one of the pillars, one of the cathedrals of the sport. But I guess even when we get out there in November, there'll still be talk of everything that happened this year at Santa Anita.
And it is going to be, probably the headline story, unfortunately, going into the Breeders' Cup, or the big shadow over the Breeders' Cup. And, as Tim Layden said in one of the essays, at the Derby, we all agree that, one horse fatality is one too many.
Right.
And nobody wants this to happen to any horse. And we all are hoping and praying for the best. And, like you said, you have to probably stay the course, and, and you come through with it, and there isn't any incidents, and everything goes off smooth. And, it was the right call, and it's, like you said, I think you just have to go through it, and people have thought about this a lot more than you and I have, and people have done the studies, and it's not like they're just saying, let's go, let's hope for the best. They definitely thought about it and came to a decision which they think is the best decision, and a lot more people thought about it than you and I. But and I think it's for the good of the sport to keep it where it is, and it is like you said, a cathedral, and you gotta, hope for the best, and any fatalities, one too many, but, I guess you're going to stay the course.
And I've got great memories. It's one of my favorite places to visit. And, we've talked about this. I don't guess I can mention this producer by name. We both know him, but I'm interviewing a guy named Sir Michael Stout out there. Now, Let's qualify this. It's Sir Michael Stout. Okay. Sir was not his given name. He was, what is it, like christened, anointed? What are you if you're given it?
Yeah.
Like I would ever know what a sir is, but he's Sir Michael Stout, legendary trainer. He has a horse that's running in the Breeders' Cup, and that was when the wildfires are out there and it's hot as blazes and they're sponging the horse off. And at that particular time, we had a we had to find somebody to interview. I happened to be next to him. I said here, so they could throw it to me. And while I'm talking to him, the producers decided, because he's very stately and very European, very British, and, he's low key. He's not going to be he's not going to have quips. He's not going to be Lucas and Baffert, making you sit there and laugh. And the producer kept saying, oh, no, you wrap this up. And the guy's only like 10 seconds into the interview. And he says, throw it over to Mike Battaglia we were working with at the time. I should admit, I love this story, Billy. You and I enjoy this story, so this is more like inside baseball, I guess. But
yes, we've laughed at this a few times.
We've laughed. So, and that given producer, whose name's David Michaels, said he would always get on me. I'd say at the Derby, I said, maybe I'd have some celebrity interviews. No, I live in Los Angeles. People have seen enough celebrities. We've seen celebrities all the time. So he says, wrap up Sir Michael. So I had like a one-question interview with Sir Michael, who's very good. And he says, get over to Battaglia. So I get over, and Mike, next thing I hear, Mike says, I'm with the actress Kim Delaney. And Kim Delaney, who was wrapping up the season of NYPD Blue, their series was coming to an end that season, plugged the living out of it on ABC, and which time our executive producer at the time, Tommy Roy, who is like a golf master with the Golf Channel, producing that, he hits the all call, which means all of us can hear it, and he says, hey, Mike, remember, NBC's still signing the paycheck. After Kim Delaney just told the world, tune over to ABC and watch the series finale of NYPD Blue. That was my...
So Anita has a special, memories to you, too, out there, huh?
Well, there was a few other things that's happened, but I keep coming back to that. I've never had anybody tell me 10 seconds into an interview to wrap it up to throw it to Kim Delaney.
No, it is a great place, and as we know, it's looking forward to having out there for the World Championships.
And if our friend David's listening, our friend David's listening, I'd love to get him on here because he was fun. He was one of a kind.
Oh yes, and he was the trailblazer for the NBC horse racing telecast.
Yeah,
so,
he was
for years, right when we NBC got it back from ABC.
And so I want to ask you about meeting your close personal friend, Jon Bon Jovi. Can we tell that story?
Oh, yes. That was throughout the years, we all had these, brushes with celebrities, and, from standing at, a Super Bowl interview with Bob Costas interviewing Madonna. You're in the room and people are like, oh, did you meet Madonna? I'm like, she was standing in the interview when Bob did the interview. So I guess technically, yes. Yeah. I said hello, but I don't know if she said hello back. But the Bon Jovi story, it was back when he was an owner of the Arena Football, and NBC had Arena Football for a year or two. And we were at the opening party, and Jon Bon Jovi was the celebrity. John Elway owned a piece of the Denver team, and John owned part of the Philadelphia team. And he was there at a cocktail party, a gathering, and the commissioner introduced him. And, he had some security around. And this guy came up to me and said, you work for NBC? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm the studio producer of the halftimes for Arena Football. And he said, well, do you want to go meet Jon Bon Jovi? And I was like, well, sure. Then I'm thinking, what am I going to say? No? Yeah. So I walk over, and he pushes his way right to the front, past the security, and says, Jon Bon Jovi, this is Billy Matthews with NBC Sports. And John looks at me, and I'm like, he doesn't know who I am, and that's quite all right. So I said, John, nice to meet you. I shook his hand. He goes, how you doing? I said, yeah, just looking forward to the season. If you guys from Philadelphia need anything, or looking forward to working together. And he was cordial. Thanks very much. And shook my hand. And then the guy who brings me over and introduces me to him turns and goes, hey, John, I'm Steve. Nice to meet you. And I looked at him like, you don't even know Jon Bon Jovi. He used me to cut the line to go meet Bon Jovi. Now Bon Jovi's like, who is this guy? And I'm like, I don't know anything. I'm just going to walk away before I get escorted out by your security or somebody at this party. But it was an interesting blank stare that John gave us at that entry of the Arena Football. But yeah, it's long after since 1987. There's been, as my wife always says, come home with a story every week about something happened, something crazy happening here and there. So.
Well, I want to read your book someday.
Yeah, my book. I'd like to read. I think your book will be a little more interesting. But it is weird. I mean, being a part of, I mean, on the sports world, I've been blessed being, a part of the Michael Jordan rise, and then part of the Tiger Woods rise. I mean, I was in videotape for his first amateur in 1996, and seeing him come along and follow that, and, the whole, the Kerry Strug stuff,
right.
All that thing from the Olympics all the way through all the horse racing. It's been, my wife says you're very fortunate to be able to do all this stuff where she's, home with the kids. And I'm like, no, I know I'm blessed to be able to, work with great people like you and all the people on the, passionate people on the horse racing, and, makes our lives a lot easier.
Well, you don't stay around in this business since 1987 at the network level without being among the very best, and Billy Matthews is, and also a great selector of restaurants with the annual pre-Belmont dinner at Peter Luger's in Great Neck, which I look forward to as much as anything.
It's like, you look at the Triple Crown, you're like, okay, the first Saturday in May is the Derby, and then I look for the first or third Thursday in June, right before the Belmont. Oh yes. It's a standing tradition.
We've got it down, and I want to say that Billy's wife, lovely wife Nancy, is a triathlete, and Billy ran with her earlier today before doing this show, and you have not caught your breath. I'm very impressed. I thought, man, I hope he's up for this, and here we gone like 30 minutes, and you're going strong.
You asked for an extra 10 minutes. He said, hey, can we push it back 10 minutes? I said, perfect. I can get hydrated. She's doing the full Ironman triathlon in end of September. A 2-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon. She'll be the second person I know that did that. Our producer, Rob Hyland, did it for NBC, and Nancy's going to be doing it now. She's always looking forward to the Saturday night in Lexington too. The little Saturday night, at the Rice Mansion.
Yes, I look forward to that. I can't wait for that. That'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
And now Nancy and Rob Hyland are the only two people I know that have done triathlons that I personally know. That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Well, Billy, I can't thank you enough for being on. I'm really glad you did this. And the summer racing series, I got to mention that. Big races coming up this summer, all throughout the summer on NBC leading up to the Breeders' Cup.
We'll get the Stars and Stripes this Saturday. I'm doing that from the Belmont. We're going to have the three races: the Belmont Derby, the Belmont Oaks, and the John Nehru, which used to be the Belmont, the Breeders' Cup. The winner in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Right.
Used to be the Belmont Sprint Championship. It's going to be good. You'll know everybody out there: Ahmed, Jerry Bailey, Lafitte, Brittany, and Edzo will be out there picking some winners for us. But a 2-hour show this Saturday, and then we have we have about 10, 8 to 10 leading up to the Breeders' Cup. It's going to be good summer, and it's a great series. Like I said, a lot of people who work on it love it, and it's going to be a lot of good racing. And I think it makes sense to the common viewers who maybe don't know.
Right.
Hey, if you win, you're in. And I always tell to Ahmed and the people who are new to this, it's like tournament weekend at the NCAA. North Carolina and Duke will still get in.
Yeah.
But North Carolina State could earn a spot in the big dance by winning this race. And that's where I look at it, where horses that might not have made the Breeders' Cup can get in, where you'll get in, the other big horses, say the blue bloods, so to speak, will still get to the Breeders' Cup, but these other horses, it gets excitement and some juice to these other races.
And that's why you're so good. That analogy right there just put it all in perspective.
Like it's the power conferences, the schools that may not be automatically in, you can still earn a spot by winning a Breeders' Cup, winning your in race.
Billy, thanks so much for being on.
Oh, Kenny, loved it. Thanks for having me, pal.
I will see you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Billy Matthews, NBC sports producer, multiple Emmy winner. Stay with us. More of the Horse Racing Show right after this.